Picture this. She meets a man who's stable, loyal, emotionally available, ready to commit. He has his life together. He treats her well. He wants to build something real. And she runs. Not toward him, away from him. She chooses the guy who won't commit, who keeps her guessing, who makes her feel anxious and uncertain. And she doesn't know why. You don't know why. But I do. Because I've watched them train her to reject you for thousands of years. And the programming has never been more sophisticated than it is right now. What if I told you that her rejection of good men isn't random? What if I told you it's not even really her choice? What if I told you that she's been systematically programmed through media, through social media, through her friends, through culture, through education, to see stability as boring, commitment as imprisonment, and good men as low value? And what if I told you that this programming serves a specific purpose, benefits specific groups, and has been intentionally designed to prevent exactly what you want: stable relationships, strong families, and long-term commitment? This is happening right now in every culture touched by modern media. Women are being trained to reject the men who would be best for them, to chase the men who will hurt them, and to rationalize these choices as empowerment and freedom. She doesn't know she's been programmed. You don't know who programmed her. And they want to keep it that way. Before I reveal the 5 ways they trained her to reject you, drop a comment right now if you've ever been the good man she rejected for someone worse. I need to know how widespread this programming has become. Now watch closely, because what I'm about to show you will change how you see modern relationships forever. I've observed this programming evolve across centuries. In every era, there are forces that benefit from disrupting pair bonding, from preventing stable families, from keeping both men and women alone, anxious, and consuming. But modern technology has given these forces tools of unprecedented power. They can reach into her mind every single day, hundreds of times per day, and reinforce programming that makes her reject you. Not because you're inadequate, but because you're exactly what they don't want her to choose. But here's what you need to understand before I reveal the programming. This isn't about blaming her. She's a victim in this system too. She didn't ask to be programmed. She doesn't consciously know it's happening. The programming operates below her awareness, shaping her preferences, her attraction, her decisions, without her conscious knowledge. And when you understand this, you stop being angry at her, and you start being angry at the right target, the system that profits from her being alone. Here's how they trained her to reject you. Programming method number 1, media narratives. Every movie she watches, every show she binges, every song she listens to delivers the same message. Stable men are boring. Commitment is a trap. The exciting man is the one who's unpredictable, emotionally unavailable, slightly dangerous. The good man is the friend, the backup plan, the one she settles for when she's done having fun. She's seen this story 10,000 times, and repetition is programming. Think about every romantic storyline she's consumed since she was a child. The stable, available man is never the hero. He's the guy she leaves for the bad boy. The commitment-ready man is never portrayed as sexy. He's portrayed as needy, as suffocating, as the death of adventure. And the message is always the same. If you feel safe with him, if he's too available, if he wants commitment too soon, he's low value. Run toward the chaos. That's real attraction. I've watched this narrative deployed across millennia in different forms. In ancient texts, in medieval poetry, in modern cinema. The story changes, but the programming remains: seduce women away from stability and toward chaos. And in modern media, this programming has reached industrial scale. She can't watch a single show, listen to a single song, scroll through a single platform without encountering this message dozens of times. And she doesn't consciously process it as programming. She processes it as culture, as normal, as what everyone thinks. And here's the devastation. By the time she meets you, the stable, available, commitment-ready man her programming has already categorized you. Before you say a word, before you make a move, her subconscious has labeled you. Boring, too available, low value, friend material. Not because of anything you did, but because of 10,000 hours of programming that trained her to see stability as the enemy of excitement. But here's where it gets darker. Programming method number 2, social media algorithms. Her Instagram, her TikTok, her Facebook, they don't show her happy, stable couples. They show her the highlight reel of chaos, the dramatic breakup, the hot makeup, the toxic relationship that's exciting, the single life that's glamorous. The algorithm has learned what keeps her scrolling, and it's not content about healthy relationships. It's content about drama, chaos, independence, and the empowerment of being alone. Every day, she's fed hundreds of pieces of content designed to make her question commitment, to glorify singleness, to frame relationships as limitations on her freedom. She sees influencers celebrating their independence, their ability to walk away, their refusal to settle. She sees memes mocking men who want commitment as needy and insecure. She sees viral content praising women who choose themselves over relationships. And the algorithm shows her more of what she engages with, creating an echo chamber where every message reinforces the same programming. Don't commit. Don't choose stability. Keep your options open. You deserve better. I've watched algorithmic programming across only 2 decades, but its power exceeds centuries of traditional propaganda. Because it's personalized, it's constant. It's disguised as entertainment and social connection. She doesn't feel like she's being programmed. She feels like she's discovering her own values, her own preferences, her own truth. But the algorithm is showing her only what serves its purpose, keeping her engaged, keeping her single, keeping her consuming, keeping her scrolling. And here's what makes algorithmic programming so insidious. She can't escape it, even if she wanted to. The algorithm follows her everywhere. It knows what she responds to. It knows her vulnerabilities. It knows exactly what content will make her doubt the good man in front of her and fantasize about something better, something more exciting, something that doesn't exist. But the programming doesn't stop at screens. Programming method number 3, her social circle. I've watched peer pressure destroy pair bonding in every culture. But modern peer pressure operates through group chats, through girls' nights, through constant access to friends' opinions. She can't make a relationship decision without input from 5 friends who've been programmed the same way she has. And they all reinforce each other's programming. If one woman questions whether the good man might actually be good, the others pull her back. You're just settling because you're scared to be alone. Don't lower your standards. You deserve someone who makes you feel butterflies. And here's the cruel irony. The butterflies they're telling her to chase, those aren't attraction. They're anxiety. The good man doesn't make her anxious, so her programmed friends tell her there's no chemistry. The stable man doesn't create drama, so her programmed friends tell her it's boring. And she listens, because everyone she knows has been programmed the same way. And it's easier to believe the programming than to question an entire culture. Her friends become enforcers of her programming, punishing any deviation from the script. If she chooses the stable man, she's settling. If she commits too soon, she's desperate. If she values security, she's old-fashioned. The only choice her friends celebrate is the one that keeps her single, anxious, and searching for something that meets the impossible standards the programming installed in her mind. And this is where the programming goes from personal to institutional. Programming method number 4, educational narratives. From university professors to corporate trainings to self-help books, she's been taught that commitment is oppression, that traditional relationships are patriarchal control, that wanting a stable man means she's been brainwashed by outdated gender roles. She has been given an entire intellectual framework that frames her rejection of good men as liberation and empowerment. I've watched educational systems weaponized to destroy pair bonding. In ancient civilizations, education reinforced family formation. In medieval societies, education prepared people for commitment. In modern Western culture, education actively discourages it. She sits in classes where professors mock traditional relationships, where textbooks frame marriage as a tool of oppression, where academic theories tell her that wanting stability is internalized misogyny. And she believes it because it comes from authority figures, from institutions, from people with credentials. And here's what makes educational programming so powerful. It gives her a vocabulary to rationalize the programming as intelligence. She doesn't say, "I rejected the good man because I was programmed to." She says, "I rejected him because I refused to settle for patriarchal relationship structures." She doesn't say, "I'm chasing chaos because I've been trained to." She says, "I'm honoring my independence and refusing to compromise my authentic self." The programming gave her the language to make her programmed choices sound like enlightenment. And this educational programming extends beyond universities into mainstream culture. Every self-help book, every podcast, every empowerment speech delivers the same message. You don't need a man. Commitment is limitation. Standards should be impossible to meet. And if you choose a good man, you're betraying yourself. She's been intellectually trained to see her programming as wisdom. But here's the final layer of programming, the one that ties all the others together. Programming method number 5, cultural inversion. They've inverted every value that would lead her to you. Stability became boring. Loyalty became possessiveness. Commitment became imprisonment. Emotional availability became neediness. Wanting to build a future became being too serious too fast. And chaos became exciting. Unavailability became high value. Emotional distance became mysterious. Refusing to commit became freedom. I've watched this value inversion across cultures and eras. It's the final stage of programming, where the programming becomes so complete that she can no longer distinguish between what she actually wants and what she's been trained to want. She genuinely believes she's attracted to the unavailable man. She genuinely believes the stable man is boring. She genuinely believes that choosing you would be settling. The programming has become her identity. And here's where the conspiracy becomes clear. Media companies that profit from her consuming content about drama and chaos. Consumer industries that target single women with higher disposable income. Pharmaceutical companies that profit from her anxiety and depression. An entire economic system that makes more money from her when she's alone, anxious, and searching than when she's in a stable, committed relationship. I've watched empires rise and fall. The ones that lasted built systems that encouraged pair bonding, family formation, stable relationships. The ones that collapsed were the ones that disrupted these systems, that made men and women suspicious of each other, that prevented the formation of the basic unit that creates stable societies. And I'm watching it happen again, but this time with tools of unprecedented power algorithms, social media, institutional education, peer pressure networks, all working together to program her to reject exactly what would make her happy and you fulfilled. And here's the darkest truth of all. The programming works best on good women. Women who want to be independent, who want to be empowered, who want to make the right choices. These are the women most vulnerable to programming that frames independence as staying single, empowerment as rejecting commitment, and right choices as walking away from stable men. The better her intentions, the more effectively the programming hijacks them. So what do you do with this information? First, understand that her rejection isn't about your value. It's about her programming. When she says you're too nice, too available, too stable, she's not describing you. She's repeating her programming. When she chooses someone worse, she's not making a free choice. She's executing programmed behavior. This doesn't make it hurt less, but it helps you understand that you're not the problem. The system is the problem. Second, recognize that you cannot deprogram her through argument or logic. The programming is too deep, too reinforced, too tied to her identity and social network. Trying to convince her she's been programmed will only trigger her defensive programming, which frames any challenge to her choices as manipulation or control. You cannot save her from programming she doesn't know exists. You can only refuse to participate in the system that programmed her. Third, understand that not all women are equally programmed. The more time she spends in programming environments, social media, feminist spaces, friend groups that celebrate singleness, media consumption, academic settings, the more deeply programmed she is. The women who've resisted programming are often the ones who've limited exposure to these environments, who've maintained traditional values, who've been skeptical of modern narratives. Look for women who think for themselves rather than repeating programming. Fourth, recognize the signs of programming. If she uses phrases like, "I woe and settle," without being able to define what settling means, she's programmed. If she describes past relationships as limiting her growth, without being able to explain what growth means, she's programmed. If she treats male availability as a negative signal rather than positive, she's programmed. If she values anxiety and uncertainty as signs of attraction, she's programmed. These aren't her authentic thoughts. They're installed narratives. Fifth, understand that the only counter to programming is reality. Eventually, the programming fails her. She's 35, single, her programming told her to reject every good man, and she's alone. The excitement she was promised never materialized. The perfect man the programming said she deserved never showed up, and reality crashes through the programming. But by then, she's often too damaged, too bitter, too hardened by years of programming to be the partner she could have been. Here is the uncomfortable truth I've learned watching this programming across generations. They trained her to reject you specifically because you re what they fear most. A good man who wants commitment threatens the entire system. If she chooses you, she stops consuming. She stops scrolling. She stops buying products marketed to single women. She stops watching shows about toxic relationships. She stops needing the endless content about finding herself and honoring her independence. She becomes unavailable to the industries that profit from her being alone. Your stability is their threat. Your commitment is their loss of revenue. Your emotional availability is their enemy. Because a woman in a stable relationship doesn't need what they're selling. She doesn't need the empowerment content, the self-help industry, the dating apps, the consumption habits of someone searching for fulfillment through products instead of partnership. They trained her to reject you because you're the exit from their system, and they can't profit if she exits. The programming isn't random. It's not accidental. It's not organic cultural evolution. It's systematic, it's intentional, and it's profitable. And the most insidious part of the programming is that she believes her programmed choices are authentic, empowered, and freely made. She doesn't know she's executing someone else's script. She thinks she's discovering her own truth. And that's how you know the programming is working. What they trained her to reject isn't just you. It's her own happiness. It's the stable relationship she actually wants once the programming wears off. It's the family she wished she had started when she realizes the programming lied. They trained her to reject her own future in favor of their profits. And she won't realize it until it's too late to undo the damage. Here's what you need to understand. She's not your enemy. She's a victim of the same system that's trying to keep you alone. The system that makes money from both of you being single, anxious, searching, consuming. They programmed her to reject you, and they programmed you to accept your rejection as your fault, as your inadequacy, as evidence you need to improve yourself by consuming more of their products. Courses, coaches, content solutions that never solve the problem because solving the problem would eliminate their revenue. The system wants you blaming yourself. It wants you blaming her. It wants you blaming each other. Because as long as you're blaming each other, you're not blaming the system. You're not recognizing the programming. You're not seeing the conspiracy. And you remain exactly where they want you alone, anxious and consuming. So here's what you do. You share this with every man who's been rejected by women for being too stable, too available, too ready to commit. You help them understand they're not the problem. The programming is the problem. And once enough people understand the programming exists, the programming starts to lose power. Once she knows she's been programmed, she can question the programming. Once you know she's been programmed, you stop taking her rejection personally. The only way to beat programming is awareness. They trained her to reject good men, but they can only keep training her if she doesn't know she's being trained. Your job isn't to fix her, save her, or convince her. Your job is to understand the game being played, refuse to participate in your own diminishment, and find the women who've resisted the programming or recognized it and chosen to reject it. They trained her to reject you, but they didn't train you to accept it. The question is, now that you know about the programming, what will you do with this knowledge? Will you keep playing the game they designed you to lose? Or will you refuse to participate in a system that profits from keeping both of you alone? I've been watching for thousands of years. The choice has never been more clear. I'll be watching what you choose.